Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia, and I'm from Quest. I'm here to welcome you to today's Reconnect Dive Deep session. I have a few reminders before we get started. Attendees will remain muted throughout the session. However, if you'd like to be unmuted to ask a question, use the raise hand feature. A Quest staff member will give you permission to speak at that time. Attendees can also type their questions into the Q&A module in your Zoom toolbar. We will address any questions at the end of the session. At this time, I'll turn things over to our speaker, Jessica Mann. Thank you.
Hey. Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Mann from SpearMC. Teresa Leon is supposed to be joining us here shortly. She's just having some technical issues, so hopefully she'll be able to join us in just a minute. So I am a managing director, and I head up our PeopleSoft grants management practice. And once Teresa's on the line, I will let her introduce herself. So, okay, looks like she's having issues with still the Zoom. One second, sorry guys. Okay, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and proceed, and hopefully she'll be able to work through the Zoom issue. So just a quick overview of our session. So Kaiser Permanente has 9 research centers and 1 school of medicine. So all of their regions are now on the PeopleSoft Grants Management Solution. And they recently went live with a billing automation improvement project that we were able to help them with, leveraging new billing features and functionality to really reduce the number of manual steps to run billing, and increase the speed in which they can get an invoice out to their sponsor and then ultimately get paid. Okay. So first we were going to talk about, well, first give a little intro on KP and SpearMC. And then we'll go over the objectives of the project and then go into the solution at a high level, and then detailed examples of what was rolled out to production. And lastly, I always like to end with lessons learned. All right, so I'm gonna give a little bit of the Kaiser Permanente background because I think it's really helpful to give context to the presentation. So here's a graphic of the various regions at KP, and there is an entity within KP called Care4i who manages the billing for many of these markets, and they are more and more moving to a centralized billing approach. So it really did become important to work on ways to make that segregation of centralization versus market billing, and also just in general reducing the number of steps. KP is a very large integrated health system, 39 hospitals. I'll let you take a look at the statistics here. And in terms of their research, so this is from 2022 data, so over 344 million in research funding. Of that, 161 that is federally funded, over 2,000 studies in progress, and Teresa is joining, yay, so she can continue to give the intro for Kaiser. But as you can see, lots of research activity, and we do have a question in, oh no, looked like there was a question in chat. Hi, Teresa, I see you have joined, yay, work through the Zoom issue. I just started to kick things off and started to give a little bit of a background on KP. Would you like to say hello and continue anything you want to stress on this slide?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Jessica, for covering me there, as I had a little technical difficulties joining in. So, hello, everyone. I'm Teresa Leung. I'm the executive director of our Kaiser Foundation Research Institute, which is a part of Kaiser Permanente. And I think this is just continuing on. We have a sizable research program. It's a little known fact that Kaiser does, in fact, do research. And we really span the gamut, a large clinical trial program. We have federal funding that has increased over the most recent years, as most institutions have, related to COVID-19 and federal funding instruments coming into our organization, as well as a lot of research funds from other partnerships and internally funded. We have a sizable research program with our personnel, our staff, our faculty, and we're a very dispersed organization across geographically dispersed across 8 different geographic regions. So this is just talking a little bit about our what we've coined OneLink, which is our software tool, the PeopleSoft software tool that we have used over nearly over a decade. We have deployed and we have over 250,000 users across the organization, with 12,000 employees in OneLink, but we transact mostly having all of our expense reporting. That's a large piece of our user base, and having all of our users um, in the platform itself, as well as our accounts payable transactions, having 9 million transactions every month, processing over 900,000 jobs, covering the gamut of the different types of production issues that we have running operations and running jobs. And then we have a pretty robust production support area as well, who are managing nearly 40,000 tickets every month. Then where we're at in terms of our deployment with the OneLink platform, I already talked about. We've been here for a number of years, and we're currently on FSCM 9.2 through Image 43 with Oracle Database 19C. This covers all the functions of our organization, and most of the FFCM modules we have deployed or are using in some capacity, really focused in on our procurement or buy-to-pay operations, with the e-settlements, accounts payable, and doing travel and expense transactions through it, as well as both the contracts management and supplier contracts. Acquire our acquisition and asset management, as well as looking at what we support, like for instance, our grants, accounts receivable, billing, and contracts is all key applications. And we also have other component applications, bolt-ons, that we're utilizing for interacting with the various modules.
All right, a bit about SpearMC. You may have already attended some sessions today, so you may have heard this. I'll try to go through it pretty quickly. We are all about PeopleSoft. So, basically any need you can think around the PeopleSoft area, happy to help. We do managed services, traditional consulting services across financials, HCM, as well as campus solution. We do lots of training and have different offerings underneath our training. We just did a little demo earlier today on our All Access Learning Pass. That is our SpearMC product of training material that you can access when you need it. It's up available all the time, pre-recorded videos. And anyway, so if you have a chance, check out that demo that we had earlier. Awesome training material that is really great for as you get new employees to get them up to speed, or just to continue learning on the new features and functionality. Okay, Oracle guided learning. That's actually a topic we're going to be presenting on with Kaiser tomorrow as well. Hopefully you get a chance to check that out. Another very cool in-system learning tool. And then we can help with moving to the cloud, some of the emergent technologies like Kibana. And then we have some proprietary products that are bolt-ons to PeopleSoft. I presented, or I did a demo earlier today on our labor cost distribution and effort reporting bolt-on. Hey, very proud to be an Oracle partner. We are SOX 2 certified, and very honored to be recognized by Gartner here. We were the sole featured PeopleSoft vendor in the latest 2023 Gartner market report for Oracle professional services. Yeah, and I mentioned a lot about our training. Check it out. We have a lot of live virtual training courses coming up. That all that information is available on our website, or you can scan the QR code right here. All right, next to the billing automation objectives. Did you want to take this slide, Teresa? I think you're still muted.
So really quickly, we had a major need inside of our we had been utilizing our billing functionality inside of OneLink to send out our invoices to our sponsors for, I would say, we went live with the grants module in 2015, and over the incremental issuance or adoption, because again, being a pretty large, sizable institution, we went across 8 different markets, and we first started with the first 3, and as we went along, realized that the management of such a broad matrixed organization was getting quite complicated, and we weren't leveraging a lot of the automated system functionalities that or the potential to have some of ease in our processing. So we have a centralized group that is responsible for the financial compliance of how we bill and reviewing that. But the actual generation of invoicing, and a lot of it used to be manual, was happening in each of those research institutes across our organization. So we really wanted to have this billing automation with the objectives to implement a solution that created those efficiencies and really streamlined the way in which we approached our billing in a more centralized approach. And in order to do that, we knew we had to leverage as much as we could the batch processing, running run controls and doing process automation, automate our billing through OneLink grants as much as possible. And then because we have need to engage with our research partners or the research institutes themselves across our organization, we wanted to work with them in developing work processes that would help generate them. So we did wanted to utilize the system to manage our workflows instead of managing it through email or through paper processes. Developing invoice templates was also important so that we could get away from the manual created invoice templates and updating them using the most latest technology, BI Publisher, to do that. And then also a big key for us was the ability to direct, once we've done the approval and done the workflow, have that email approval to email directly to sponsors as much as possible. A few other key objectives were getting an understanding of all the various invoice templates that we had and aligning that and being able to automate automate based on funder specific requirements, whether or not that be CDC, NIH, PCORI, or our largest partner as a non-federal entity was UCSF. Um, and a way to validate expenses, not utilizing the billing process per se, and viewing the invoicing so that we could centralize and push those to sponsors, but really be able to validate them and find ways that people know that the expenses match the invoice that's going to go out, but they have time to validate those expense transactions. That was really important. We had been utilizing an off system process to do that validation. Um, Ability for one link to generate these expense additional details so that when a sponsor needs more details for their transaction and line level detail for who's sending invoice, ability to drill in on those invoices, but generate more dynamic detail as necessary, and improve the process to reprint and access invoices in a PDF format. And then lastly, assessing value benefits, workload needs. We had a lot of billers in the system, 60 plus different billers. So reviewing, so consolidating that as much as possible, reviewing and implementing security rules around billing, and segregating our bills based on our billing types, federal versus non-federal, what KFRI in Central does versus what the region will do for our clinical trial program.
All right. Those were the objectives going in. Let's talk about what we delivered as a solution. And just as a reminder, the term one link, I saw the question in the chat, is what Kaiser Permanente calls their PeopleSoft system. Okay, so we did deliver a new way and tool to review and certify expenses outside of the billing process. We'll show you that in just a minute. We provided the ability to more easily segregate centralized billing versus market billing. We did deliver the ability to have systematic emailing of invoices, and we created new and improved invoice forms, including the ability to systematically stamp on a signature and include remittance information. So in terms of the invoice forms, and we'll show an example, we created a new version of a standard as incurred, utilizing the new BI Publisher tool that allows KP to take advantage of other new features and functionality like the emailing and attaching of invoices in the system. So we also needed to create a new BI Publisher version of fixed amount, and then basically tacking on to the standard as incurred invoice, there is an invoice format that will not only print the as incurred amounts summarized into the expense grouping, but then also print labor and expense details. So we'll show you an example of that. We did create a sponsor specific form for Corey, since we had a pretty large volume there with that sponsor. And then we also created the concept of a cover letter only invoice for those sponsors that we knew they had their own specific invoice format that we would not be able to create and maintain in the system. The cover letter we'll tell you about that will allow you to create kind of a generic invoice and then attach supporting details. We also turned on the ability to easily access invoice PDFs through, by leveraging the BI Publisher tool for the invoice. We could now take advantage of the delivered functionality to attach PDFs to the invoice. And then we also did a small enhancement to make it easier to access on the billing history page on the billing plan. We created the ability to systematically merge invoices with attached supporting documents, okay, to merge them together into one invoice, which could then be emailed out to the sponsor. We also, as we were designing our invoice formats, were especially around the as incurred, trying to be very careful to allow different structures of contracts. So invoice would print and work regardless of how you wanted to break and split your billing. So whether it was at the contract line, by project, or by activity, that budget information and the cumulative billing would be correct regardless of how you wanted to group and summarize. Then we also rolled out some delivered functionality to automatically streamline batch jobs and run them together. So we'll show you that. We have both streamlined billing as well as Business Process Weaver. We added some more batch processing. So the ability to process finalized invoice and send it to AR faster by adding that some additional runs during the day. And then additional reporting to monitor contract and billing status. So we have a new report and some new queries. Okay, looks like we're good. No questions in the chat, but once again, feel free to request to unmute yourself to ask a question or put it in the chat. Happy to take questions as we go. All right, so diving deeper into the solution. So the first one, the ability to review and certify expenses outside the billing process. So the idea here is we wanted to get away from creating temp bills, especially for KFRI with the centralized billing, creating pro formas, having them reviewed as a step by the regions before they went out the door. We wanted them to do the review outside of that billing process to not slow it down. And therefore, we have created a new page to systematically track monthly expense certification. So it's a custom page as well as a process to populate it. And the way that the security works here is you have to have a particular role on the project team, one of these 4 roles, in order to be able to see the project and stamp a certification. Okay, so going to the next page, I know this is a teeny bit small here, but as you can see on the top, we have for a particular PI, they're groups of projects that have transactions for that period, which is a month, and the ability to not only see some of the demographic information, what is your current expenses, and then your totals to date, and then the ability to drill down into the details and see all the detailed transactions for that particular month. Yeah, so they bring in all of the kind of key information related to the transactions, including the ability to drill into the AP invoice to see additional voucher information as well. Okay, so that was expense certification. Then we created new contract type and bill sources to allow federal and centralized billing to be segregated from market billing. So on the left, you'll see the new contract types, differentiating between central and market, and then they have corresponding bill sources, since contract types don't always, that value is not always available once you get over to billing, but the bill source is. Right, and then we mentioned by creating the new invoice forms using BI Publisher, we were able to take advantage of systematically emailing of invoices. We did pull in a recent change that was released in Image 45, which allows the email sender address to be changed at a lower level. So it used to be just one high level setting for email. Now you can specify it at the BU level, as well as the bill type level. So we pulled in that change so we didn't have to customize to meet, that was one of our requirements on our list. So we pulled in that ability to specify by BU. And then we did have some further requirements around emailing that we did need to make some modifications for in order to specify a CC address as the email went out to the sponsor. So I think I have a slide for that, and I have a Q&A Okay, is this a custom page different from PM review page? I'll quickly go back, I think, while that question's there. I think the question in the chat relates to this page here. Expense certification, yes, this is a custom page. Kaiser Permanente is utilizing the PM review page. They use that for um, internal billing, where the funding is coming from their Garfield funds. So they are utilizing the PM review page. However, to kind of meet the requirements around certification, we did need to bring in more information. Therefore we did, we wanted to basically make it a little easier to certify for a particular PI across the period. And so therefore we did elect to build a custom page for that, meeting that need. Okay, hopefully answered live. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so let's move on to, we were talking about the systematic emailing of invoices. So here I mentioned by checking this box here on the business unit level for billing, you can have the invoice PDF be stored in the system to easily access, but you do need it to be in the BI publisher format. So we were able to take advantage of that. And then also here is that new change coming in where we can specify the sender address. This was just from a test environment. Okay. Then I mentioned, in order to meet some of our additional requirements around emailing, we did enhance the system for specific invoice formats and business units to do some additional functionality, which is as we send out an email, we wanted to CC the region's group email box. Okay, so the region could see, get a copy as well of all of those invoices going out, very similar to their current business process. And then for those that are centrally managed by KFRI, we also wanted to be able to have an additional CC to the KFRI specific mailbox. Okay, and there's a few other criteria changes that we made, and really they only if the invoice is specified here will it impact functionality, so no changes to the delivered invoice formats using this approach. So trying to check the chat. Okay, here's the delivered page. This is a delivered page for if once you start emailing invoices, you can see a status of their results and double check if there was any emails that didn't go out due to a wrong email address. So there's a delivered page. There's also a delivered my work to be able to reattempt an email if you did have a failed status. So that's delivered. Okay, and then spent quite a bit of time designing these new invoice forms, even though we had, for some of them a starting point. We did still try to incorporate as many, requested changes as we could, including having the ability to automatically print a signature. And we did decide to use the field bill authority to be the driver for the signature field, because that signer oftentimes was very different than the billing specialist. So we did move forward with using billing authority to link to a signature. We have a remit to section for a lockbox that was printed specifically for KFRI. I mentioned earlier that we wanted to make the invoices smart enough to print at whatever level you're setting up your contract to be structured and summarized. And then we just had some other miscellaneous fixes of wanting to have award long description versus short, making sure notes were printing correctly, and then making sure the F&A rate was brought in based on effective dating logic versus the most current rate. Okay, so here is an example of what that as incurred invoice format looked like. So this was a very similar format to what they had before. Now in PI Publisher version with a signature, with the remittance information, and the ability to automatically email, attach in the system, and a few other enhancements. Here's the pro forma version of it. And then if you chose the invoice, as incurred invoice to print expense detail, it will automatically print that first page at the summary level. At the second page, it will summarize by employee, the number of hours, and the dollar amounts. And then for the rest of the non-labor expenses, it will summarize up into the account level underneath its appropriate grouping. Okay, so that's a nice time saver. That's a format they did not have in the past. And then we made some tweaks to the fixed amount invoice, including, tacking on that signature, some other few enhancement requests. And then here's the example of the cover letter, which is very generic. Just really, giving the invoice number, date, amount, well, the award number as well. And then through our merging solution, if any additional PDFs were uploaded into billing into the supporting documents page, then the system would take this cover letter and merge it together into the sponsor specific format that they requested. Okay, which is the next slide, talking about the merging and storing. So anything uploaded into supporting documents that is marked, or that's a PDF and marked not for internal, the system will automatically merge them together. And then not only do we see that invoice image PDF on the bill header level, we can also access it on the billing plan history page. Okay, so here's some example of the supporting documents. So Kaiser was already using this feature. This is a delivered functionality to upload attach supporting documents. So here, if we're attaching in a Word and a PDF, as long as it's not marked as internal, the system will merge together the PDF files, and it will reattach a merged version and just the original invoice itself. And in terms of emailing, it would email out the merged PDF as well as attach any files that are not PDF. Okay. And then in terms of viewing it in the system, so this is the delivered link. If you're using PDF and you check that on the BU to attach the invoice, you can see it here on the bill summary, view invoice image. And then we also added it here too on the billing plan history, since you may not know the invoice number off the top of your head, but if you go into the contract, you're in the billing plan, you can come and see the history, and now you can click into the actual PDF. Okay. All right. Then, I just missed one of the chat questions because I didn't realize they're going up on the top. Transfer document, where we transfer bills from one customer to other customer, any process available. Transfer document. It's from one customer to another. I am not sure if I totally understand the question. Are you saying you created an invoice to one customer and you want to change it to another customer? let me know if that's your question. In the meantime, I'm going to jump over to Streamlined Billing and Business Process Weaver. So we enabled streamlined billing for certain type of contracts, which is fixed amount contracts where we don't really need to send the invoice to the customer, but we need to get the amount into AR. And then Business Process Weaver is for everything else where we want to skip that manual step of running the billing interface. So Business Process Weaver. Oh, I guess I start with Streamlined Billing. Hold on, let me go through Streamlined Billing first. So Streamlined Billing has been out for quite some time. The way you turn this on is you have to have some additional bill by fields in your bill by identifier. So we created a new bill by identifier, and then you check these two boxes here, pre-approved, which, as you probably know, will bypass the billing worksheet. And then you have to have direct invoice checked. Once the billing plan is set up like that, when you initiate contracts to billing, it will automatically kick off this job right here, which, as you can see, goes through all the different steps of creating and finalizing an invoice. So running your edits, printing process, finalizing and sending it to GL, currency conversion, sending it to AR, and then all the way back into updating contracts and project costing. So when you run it this way, it does kick off a new job, and you can see all the steps that it runs through. But yes, for Kaiser, we are only running it for specific use cases, just because it bypasses the billing interface, bypasses approvals, and for fixed amount, we said really we're only going to use this if you need to create an invoice. You're not sending it to the sponsor, you're just loading it to AR. Now for streamlined billing, this process allows you to string together different PeopleSoft jobs and pass information from one job to the next. So here you can see contracts to billing. We are going to be kicking off CIBI interface, which sends the billable rows into the billing interface. And then what happens next is it will automatically kick off that billing interface step. If we did not need to go to the billing worksheet and review and approve it, we could link together more processing as well. But as of right now, the business process still, for the most part, does go through the billing worksheet. But our billers are quite happy now to be able to have it automatically kick off the billing interface. Okay, so there's some configuration to set this up. And then notice here, this run control setup for process as incurred billing. This is your traditional run control, right? But it does need to be set up with the same name as our process run control. That's how it kind of links it together. And so billers, instead of coming here to the run control each month, they will come into this page. This setup won't need to change. They just come in here, click the button, and update their run controls. And then it will automatically process the billing interface. Visually, it does a really nice job of showing you where it's at in the process. You still get your same messages, so you can go into the process monitor essentially and see what happened. Interestingly, it's not real visible if you go to the process monitor that you ran it through streamlined billing. It just looks like you ran contracts to billing, ran the billing interface, but all of your data still is here, and you can see that and get a full history of what happened, which is cool. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I have a question in the chat. So it will read the interface ID from the earlier process. Yes, exactly. So I guess this screenshot gets cut off, but when we initiated this process, it generated, in this case, one row was inserted with the billing interface ID, and then it proceeded to go ahead and process just that interface ID. You can't see that part, but yes, it passes it along, which is great. Okay, so lessons learned. Okay, view invoice image stores to invoice supporting documents. Okay, so with that feature of turning the checkbox on to attach the invoice to the bill header, it does also automatically put it into the supporting documents, which was kind of cool. That wasn't immediately clear to me when I was looking at the functionality. Bill authority, let's see, bill authority. I mentioned we decided to use that field to use as our signature. However, it is not a field as delivered that's available on a fixed amount billing plan. So we had some conversations, we went back and forth on that. Ultimately, we moved forward with bill authority. And so as of right now, if it's a fixed amount invoice, they are adding it at the temp invoice phase. And you can use the invoice mass update to, if there's a bunch of blanks, you can put somebody in. We do have a small enhancement for January to address making this available for fixed amount billing as well. The delivered business process weaver, as delivered, is working great for as incurred. Unfortunately, for fixed amount, it was not passing the interface ID. So if we see here, you do have a different task ID for fixed amount, and even when we linked it together here, it was not dynamically passing that interface ID. So we offered a workaround to the users, which is, okay, just have it set up this run control to run for the full business unit. And that is the workaround we have right now. And we're addressing, we've logged a case with Oracle. And if we don't get a fix, we'll fix it internally so that we can use this for fixed amount and just narrow it down to interface ID. Because their business process really, when they're running billing, they don't kind of want to touch anybody else's within their BU. So even though we have the workaround to run by BU, and typically there shouldn't be anything out there, unless it's in an error, the builders really didn't want to do that workaround. They would have rather really just narrowed it down to their interface ID. So that is our lessons learned that we're still, well, we knew going, during the project that was a bug, and we're working to resolve it on our next small enhancements release. If you're using that streamlined billing feature, it does, if you have invoice approval, like approval framework turned on, which Kaiser does for certain types of their invoices, it bypasses that invoice approval workflow, right? And the whole idea here is you're kicking it off and it's running through everything. It's not waiting for you to do the billing worksheet. It's not waiting for invoice approval. So keep that in mind if you want to take advantage of streamlined billing. And then the last one, I think this was my biggest lesson learned on this project, allowing lots of time to update and add build to contacts. So certain regions at KP were already utilizing the build to contact features, others were not. And it is, creating and updating contacts is centrally maintained, and only a very, very small number of users have the ability to do that. So really there was a coordination between those setting up a contract and those maintaining a contact. So this really did take quite a bit of time to work through all of those, making sure all of our invoices where we wanted to email out to a sponsor, that they had the appropriate contact and it was updated. So heads up there, plan for lots of time. If you're planning to email invoices to customers, it does utilize the bill to contact, because that's where it finds the email. And it did take quite a bit, and I've heard this from other projects too, it did take quite a bit of time to update those contacts. Oh, and in fact, we have added there's an Excel that delivers Excel to CI2 that you can take advantage of to upload contacts. So we have also just rolled that out to the region, or to our individuals who maintain the contacts. Okay. Time permits. Share if there is any learning, etc., around revenue recognition commitment control module. Okay, so lessons learning around, or examples around revenue recognition. I guess I'll just hit this at a experience. Sorry, was there another question, or? Okay, I'll go back, just hit the revenue recognition and commitment control at a high level. So Kaiser primarily bills and recognize revenue, either it's as incurred, and then they recognize revenue as costs are incurred, as the costs hit the project, that is recognized right away before it's billed. They have fixed amount billing where the revenue is recognized as the invoice is finalized. They have a little bit of prepaids, use of the prepaid functionality where a sponsor may pay in advance, and for those, the revenue is the same, recognizing revenue as the costs are incurred. However, it reduces the deferred revenue as the costs coming in are utilized against a prepaid amount. And then there's a couple of unique types of billing related to interregional billing, where one region invoices another region, and revenue recognition is the same there. Just the billing goes through the inter-unit billing process. And then I think the other main type of structure is more of a cost transfer, where they're getting reimbursed from an internal sponsor. They do utilize commitment control. So they set up their budgets and post budgets to commitment control, but it's track with budget, so no control setting. Teresa, anything else you want to add around the revenue recognition or commitment control?
I don't know if you covered the fixed price.
Yeah, cover the fixed price.
It's a fixed price revenue upon at the billing, at the point of billing. So we didn't really run in the invoicing process in general. The one time we ran into some issues was related to timing of accounts payable. But we didn't have to change our revenue recognition model or strategy for either for our revenue plans that we currently have. We continue to utilize them in our implementation of these enhancements.
Okay, any other questions you guys have?
That was an excellent presentation. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and just mark these as answered.
Great.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I mean, we can go ahead and end this. Are you going to be posting this, a link to your presentation for viewers to see?
Yes, we can post the final version. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, that would be great. Again, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the conference.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks.